You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Well, welcome back to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell.
And co-host Keelan Harvey.
Local mortgage experts right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, December 8th show. It is a great day to talk about money, and that's what the show is all about, how to make money, how to keep your money, have a better quality of life for your family, and to be able to give back to the community like you want to. And if you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To talk with any of our guests for questions that you have, feel free to call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, we have Vincent Humphrey of Humphrey Associates. Top questions answered by a divorce attorney. Vincent, thank you so much for coming back in studio. I love to have you here representing the law and how to get yourself out of trouble or keep yourself out of trouble. So thanks for coming back in.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, both of you. Glad to be here.
And a little bit about Vincent. Vincent is an attorney at Humphrey Associates PLLC, which focuses on family law and civil litigation. His passion is bringing justice and clarity to those in need. His experience allows him to work well in many different situations, and his service first mentally allows him to break past the toughest scenarios. Vincent holds a Juris Doctor degree from the University of Idaho College of Law and a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Washington. He has advised executives from Fortune 100 companies as well as the working man and woman at the local grocery store. Vincent participates in various of legal organizations in King County where he mentors other lawyers and is interested in helping good people going through tough situations. Vincent was just selected by Super Lawyers as a rising star for the state of Washington, and distinction that no more than 2.5% of attorneys can get. Congratulations on that, Vincent. That's new since the last time that we've had you in studio.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Vincent, you stud. Look at you go.
He looks like a stud, too. He always comes in here so dressed
nice. He's a bona fide stud. That's a fact.
He's blushing over there.
Hey. So Vincent, tell us, you get all this noise, I'll call it, about attorneys and who and what. And so, in your opinion, how the heck do we find ourselves a good attorney?
First of all, Merry Christmas, everybody that's out there. Happy holidays, all of that. It's always a pleasure being here. Go Huskies. We're going to the Rose Bowl, so for all my dogs out there, go dogs. And Merry Christmas to my kids and my wife as well. Just throw that all out there.
Real quick. That's
awesome. That was very great.
Yeah, just throw it out there. Now that the question, how do I pick a good attorney? It comes to our office all the time, and it's hard, right? Because you've got blogs and you've got websites and you've got people saying I've got this award and well, Dr. Seuss was a doctor too, right? On and on, right? So how do you know? Especially, primarily we do family law, which is divorce and parenting plans and child support, but we do some other things, but holistically, right? So if there's a listener out there that says, I need an attorney for something, how would I know? And I think one of the distinctions was having a conversation with a client just a couple of days ago, and I said, to me, the distinction really turns on managing expectations. And I think that really goes with a lot of professionals holistically, in mortgages or real estate, on and on, jewelry even. Can you manage my expectations between what it is that I have in my mind as what's reasonable or what makes sense and the reality of that request? Sometimes it might be a price situation where, sure, we can do that. Maybe that's not something economically that you want to do for whatever reason. Maybe it's too much, maybe it's not enough, whatever it is. But being able to manage those expectations, I think that's kind of the hallmark. And then beyond that, can you explain it to me, right? I understand, sure, I've got a legal background and I can use legal words, but when you walk out of my office, does it make sense to you? Can you regurgitate that to a spouse or a partner or a friend? Because I am intrinsically aware that once you leave my office, there's somebody you're going to call. Hey, how'd it go? What did the lawyer say? What are our chances? And in that conversation, for me, I think that is one of the hallmarks. If you can be able to have a client, a patient, a customer, be able to leave your environment and have that next conversation.
Be able to say exactly
Yeah.
makes
What
total
happened?
sense. They understand what their options are and
Well
what
said.
exactly you were able to, that you said. So hopefully right now in the holidays that there's not people that are going through divorces, but if someone is there a limit to what partners can ask for?
Even given the holidays, as I'm sure you've been in business for years, everything has a cycle. So right now, in kind of the family law cycle, it kind of bottlenecks because people kind of grit their teeth and say, I'm going to get through. I got through Thanksgiving, but gosh darn it, this is the last Christmas I ever.
So the new year is really busy.
It's huge, right? So for the family lawyer.
It's kind of like getting a mortgage too. When people are shopping for home, they kind of put it on pause for the holidays, and then as soon as the new year hits,
right?
Yes.
New home, new spouse, all of that.
Oh my God, this is so bad. We are not giving any suggestions.
At all. But to somebody out there, this is a reality. And they're like, you know what? Right on. That is it. So we call that like the can question. Well, what can they do? And I say this pretty routinely as well. It is possible to go to McDonald's and order a pizza, right? We can go there right now. We can order a large pepperoni. I like meat, so it would be a large pepperoni with bacon and, a side of wings or breadsticks and a 2-liter. You can do all of that. And that kind of ties back to the other question about, well, what about the expectations? How realistic is that? Because either they will laugh at you, they'll entertain it, give you a number, and you come to the window. At the end of the day, afternoon, morning, whatever, fourth meal, you're still not going to leave with that order or that expectation. So a lot of times what becomes difficult, especially in litigation, family law or some other civil, other than maybe criminal, there's a whole lot of creative things that people can ask. And so my response viscerally to that is they can. It's not so much what are they asking for. Again, pizza at McDonald's, it's what are you going to leave with?
Yeah.
Hopefully not pizza at McDonald's. I'll tell you that.
You wouldn't want it.
No, I don't know what that would consist of. I don't know. I'm sure they could do it though.
Oh, I saw how the chicken McNuggets were made, and that's pretty scary.
Made with real chicken now. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old play on words, right? Yeah. So, what are some things that courts like to see when you're actually presenting a case to them? Like when you have speaking of expectations. What should you expect when going into a court and presenting a case?
I think it's always the best practice when you are presenting to court, an arbiter, or maybe it's HR at your job or something along those lines. But more specifically for the court, they want you to be reasonable. So if you were going to ask for something or to say something, be reasonable. Now, we also, there's a term that comes up in law school where they say, well, reasonable minds may differ. Well, that's true. But if you
Especially in the law.
Oh, my gosh. It's on and on. And so to that, if you can come off and back that up in some way, right? Either there's a picture, there's a message, there's an email, something to help validate your request, it goes a long ways because that can question goes so far. People bring that up all the time, but realistically, you've got, in the court context, you've got a judicial officer sitting in a robe that is hearing this over and over and over. Even if you watch court TV, I'm not really a big fan of that, but even in court TV, if you look at it and you see the person that presents and has either some objective feedback or something that can back up their claim, regardless of what's being said, even Judge Judy is going to give that person at least a certain level of deference and attention.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about efficiency. I mean, you want to go in and have high efficiency and be
One time
prepared.
One time
this process and be prepared when you're going to court. So, Vincent, what do they? What would a judge not want you to present?
Absolutely the other side of what I just said, right? They don't want you going in there and just talking about how unicorns fly over the rainbow and gosh darn it, if we could just catch lucky, the charms are there and because the pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow.
And they don't want to hear the story behind anything. Leave it all out.
Just present your case in a way, and I know this is kind of broad and, without going into specifics, right? and it really is on a case-by-case basis, you want to be able to be as reasonable as possible. When you go into the other things, emotionally, it may make you feel good. And we have those conversations with our clients all the time. Emotionally, yes, I understand where you're coming from, but legally speaking, no.
Yeah.
Just
well, and
no.
same with you as their attorney. You want to keep the emotional side out of it, which connects to the storytelling, because you're on the clock, and so they really want to be prepared throughout the process, meeting with you, and then taking that's kind of a preparation to go into court.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you manage people that come in? I imagine they're really upset. This is a tough thing emotionally for people. I'd imagine there's some bitterness probably involved. Like, how do you manage two parties and really trying to, like, how do you manage that? Like, do you see a lot of crazy expectations like, oh, I want the lug nuts off your vehicle, like, like stuff like that? Or tell me about
the
that.
ring off your finger or the boot off your foot.
Yeah.
Not both of them, just one of them.
Just
Because I
one.
want you to feel that. Just one boot.
Just one.
It happens all the time. And I think this comes with just maturity and growth, even on our own part, is just understanding that our office isn't for everybody. And that's okay, because we take really kind of a no-nonsense approach when it comes to that. There are plenty of attorneys out there that will make the pizza at McDonald's argument, and that's really what I call it. Plenty that will do that. To me, it makes no sense. The courts don't like it. But if you're going to pay $1, they're going to take it. And so basically what you're hearing here is how I have kind of that first consultation where I say, I'm not going to hold anything back. I've just learned through life, amongst other experiences, I'm going to be open. And if that doesn't work for you, that is okay. That's
Good
okay.
for you. Good for you.
Well, we always talk about you really need to pick the right client, because if it's not the right client for you, you're not the right person for that client.
Yeah.
And so it's a disservice to everybody involved if you don't do
stressful?
that workup.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm a no stress person. I talk about turn stress into success. So any stress that I have, I'm figuring out how to turn it into success very, very quickly. So Vincent, let's talk about paperwork. I mean, Keelan and I in the mortgage industry, there's a lot of paperwork, and kind of being able to manage and navigate through that and work that through efficiently. Talk about that.
So organizing your paperwork, I know I've said that before on this show, it matters so much. Coming in and having it chronologically, that's really the best way. Chronologically, keep them together. If you can have it, if you have an attorney, great. A lot of them now are, and I know our office does as well, scan them in to have them electronic. Even if you're writing solo, we call that pro se. If you're pro se, also have a backup. You don't want to be in a situation where you seriously need a document and you just cannot find it.
Well, and also, Vincent, kind of like with a tax preparer, we've got a bookkeeper here today. And I always told Dave, because my husband does all of our he sends our taxes to our CPA, but I tell him, go through all the documents and only send him exactly what he wants. Because if you send him all this other stuff, you have an Excel spreadsheet, so don't send in all the receipts and things. He'll let you know if he needs it, because he's got to go through that, and it's going to cost more money. So same thing in your line of work as well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
If we didn't ask for it, please don't send it. Please.
Story of our lives,
Don't
right?
send it.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't
story
send
of our
it.
lives, we don't want to see it.
I don't wanna see it.
I don't want to know about it.
I didn't ask for it. I don't want it. In fact, I don't even want to deal with it. So what happens if things don't go your way, Vincent, in court? Where can you go from there?
A couple of things. I mean, there's an appeals process kind of all the way around in general, and I guess I'll just put that as a caveat, but there's usually some sort of appeals process, and in that process, understand it is a quick turnaround. A lot of times, like in King County Superior Court, you got 10 days. So, depending on where you are, you want to check with either your attorney or the court to say, if something happened that I'm not okay with, how much time do I have? Beyond that, if you're not sure if you're going to get locked in, because sometimes there's mediation or arbitration that will bind you to certain things, kind of like signing a contract. If you don't know, please ask somebody before doing it, because in certain respects, there may not be a way to undo what you've done.
Yeah. So, Vincent, as we wrap up our time here, let's talk about the retainer. And I mean, that's a good thing to wrap. I know maybe that's not the best thing to wrap up with, but
Big old smile.
in 1 minute, Vincent.
Money. So all right. To me, the big thing, and I tell my clients I liken it to gas. It's just kind of like filling up your tank. So every time you turn it on, every time you go somewhere, it's using up just a little bit of that. So to the extent that you can, one time it put all of your stuff together in one email, batch that together. you will do yourself nothing but favors. So a lot of people don't know, well, what's a retainer? How does it work? Every time you send an email, every time you call, every time you have a thought and engage your attorney with that thought, it's going to use just a little bit of that gas.
Yeah. Vincent, thank you so much for coming back in studio. Always love seeing you and love you representing the space for law.
It always goes so fast, but thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Always
Merry
good to
Christmas
see you
to
as well
too,
as
my friend.
Merry Christmas.
Coming up next on the Money Hour, the power of accurate books. Stephen Cohen of Take It On Today, right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW after the short break.